How to get out of social isolation and get a girlfriend. I was socially isolated and anxious for years. I sat alone at lunch in high school. I could barely talk to women. And now I'm at the point where talking to women is no longer a chore. It's no longer something that's hard that I have to force myself to do. It's very fun and it's effortless. And I've helped multiple guys to get there. So today I want to give you guys the step by step of how I was able to get out of social isolation, being lonely and trapped, into a place where, dating is very fun. Isolation is so sinister because it's like a self-reinforcing loop. What happens is there's usually like a trigger that starts it all off. Okay, maybe you had a breakup, or maybe you're already a bit socially anxious, or you had some vices like a drug addiction, a video game addiction, or you're a bit insecure. So what happens is you start to socially isolate to protect yourself. And then what happens is you become more socially anxious. You become more reliant on Netflix, on video games, on smoking weed. You become more insecure. And then from that, you want to hide even more. And then it's just this downward spiral until you find yourself into this place where you don't have any friends, you don't have any dating prospects, and it's hard to even really make eye contact with people for a lot of people. And so what I had to do when I found myself in that situation was I got sick and tired of it. And I had to make an objective assessment of my life and be real with myself, okay? Was I socially isolated because people suck? Or was it my own issue? Because what I did and what a lot of people have to do when they socially isolate themselves is they have to give a justification that protects their own ego. And usually what that will be 90% of the time is blaming other people. It's saying like, oh, people are mean, people are untrustworthy, people suck. And that's kind of the archetype, of the old angry man, is he has to be angry at people to protect his own ego because of the fact that he's alone. But deep down, he really wants to connect with people. Okay, and so I had to accept the fact that it was my own issue. Because if you look at things objectively, is there really no good people out there? Like, is there really no good women out there? If you're having failure of relationship after relationship after relationship, is it women or is it you? Or potentially the women that you're choosing, which is still your fault, right? And so I had to be real with myself. And did I really not need anyone? Because I really thought like I didn't need anybody, you know? Or was I just suppressing my emotions, right? We sort of get into this stoic philosophy where we act like we're not human beings. Like we act like we're robots and we don't actually need people, which is ridiculous. It's sort of taking things to an extreme that doesn't make sense. Was it really cool to be a lone wolf? A lot of guys romanticize this sort of lone wolf mentality, this Clint Eastwood Batman mentality, where they think it's cool to go about life alone. I mean, is that really cool? I don't know. And also, there's sort of like a sick enjoyment that we get out of self-pity, out of blaming other people, and being in victimhood. Okay, and it feels good a little bit, but it comes at the cost of your own self-esteem and control over your own destiny, control over your own world. All right, so I had to be real with myself and be like, okay, I do need to change. I'm sick and tired of this, okay? And number three was I had to get dopamine from talking to people, not my vices. Because what I was doing was I was watching hours of YouTube, I was playing video games, vaping, and smoking weed. And sure, I could get dopamine out of that, but it was cheap. And the thing is, when you talk to people, when you're having a good conversation with people that you're enjoying, you're laughing, you have the release of all of these feel-good chemicals like oxytocin, dopamine, serotonin. And it feels so much better than, I don't know, playing a video game, okay? And so now I want to go through some reframes that changed my life. And then I'm gonna give you the practical action steps to get out of social anxiety and to gain some social momentum and start talking to women and getting on some dates, okay? But first of all, let's go ahead and do this. So, when I had social anxiety, I assumed that people were watching and judging me, and you might relate to that. I had low self-esteem, but what actually created the anxiety part where I was like afraid, I was like walking throughout the world and thinking that everybody was looking at me, was I really assumed the worst about people. I assumed that people were always looking out to just boost their own ego. They were always just comparing themselves to me and pushing me down to boost themselves up. And I assumed that people were all perfectionists that needed everything and everyone to be absolutely flawless. Okay, so that's how I thought people operated. And that's why I was in such a state of, inhibition, of monitoring every single movement that I made, every single word that I said, okay? And really, I came to realize that people were not like that. I met some people who were absolutely free and were not judgmental. They had high self-esteem. They weren't perfectionists at all. And so I realized that this was just a projection of myself onto other people. And it wasn't because I was a bad person, it wasn't because I was egotistical and I enjoyed pushing other people down, but I just had the wrong programming. I was in the mindset of always comparing myself to other people. Okay, so from there, when I had that realization, I decided to stop assuming the worst about people. And I made the decision to view everybody around me as the best versions of themselves. Okay, because we all have like a higher versions of ourselves and we all have like a petty version of ourselves. And I wanted to give everybody the benefit of the doubt and view people as the best versions of themselves that they really have inside. So, and to this day, I assume that everybody around me is compassionate, respectful, generous, and that when they see me, they see an awesome guy. Okay, so that's what I assume about people. I assume that everybody's a good person until proven otherwise. Until somebody literally punches me in the face and calls me a douchebag, then I'm not gonna assume that somebody's out to hurt me. Like, that's my rule now. And now, let's say somebody was judgmental of you, coming back to the social anxiety thing, and they were looking down on you like you're less than them. Is that a reflection of you? Or is that a reflection of them? Okay, because somebody who has an amazing life, somebody who has a great social circle and a high self-esteem, do they need to push other people down? Do they need to judge other people? No. The only reason that someone needs to judge other people is once again to boost themselves up. So it's literally not your problem, even if it was the case that people are judging you. But truthfully, people really aren't. Like, people are just humans. They're mostly good people. Okay, everybody has their flaws, but everybody's just trying to survive, is what I came to realize. And so, what I decided to do was send out positive thoughts to people. And I know this sounds weird, and I thought it sounded weird at the time, but like, when I go out into public, when I go to the gym or, I go to the supermarket, I'm like sending out positive thoughts to people in my mind. Okay, so for example, I might see like a homeless guy or a guy who seems like he's having a really bad day. And I'll do like a silent prayer in my head, like, I hope this guy just has a better day or something like that. And that's the kind of energy I'm bringing around to people. And when I think of the people around me in a positive way, when I'm sort of sending out my good wishes to people, then I kind of can imagine them doing the same thing to me. I can imagine other people viewing me as the best version of myself that I would want them to view me as, because that's what I'm doing. So that's the belief system that I operate on. And the thing is, they probably are imagining you in a positive way because of the charisma you have when you're in that state. Okay, so it's like a self-reinforcing loop. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. All right? When you believe people are kind, then they will be, because our beliefs influence our actions, which influence other people's beliefs, which influences their actions towards us. All right? When you believe the world is judgmental and mean, it will be. When you believe you're awesome, and not from like a prideful, like egotistical way, but just from being a human, from being your own person, then people are also going to think you're awesome, and then they're going to be sort of magnetized towards you. All right, self-fulfilling prophecy. And now here's another tip around really social anxiety, low self-esteem, and dopamine, is that social media is terrible. All right, it makes people paranoid, yet it's a socially acceptable drug like alcohol that everyone's addicted to. So it's sort of like meth in a way, because meth, it might give you that crazy burst of whatever dopamine, but you're gonna be paranoid from it. You're gonna have all of these negative consequences. And so similar to alcohol, it's one of those things that we're all just, literally everybody's addicted. Everybody's addicted to social media, okay? And what you get from this is an information overload. You get exaggerated things, plain misinformation, and unnatural social comparison. Like earlier today, I log on to YouTube and it's like, I'm 16 years old and I make like $1 million every month. And half of that stuff is fake, half of it's over exaggerated, and it's unnatural because you're viewing people throughout the entire world, but your brain doesn't know that. Your brain thinks you're in a tribe of 150 people. Okay, so it's unnatural. And of course, anonymity. So when it comes to comments, a large portion of people commenting are just venting their own frustration. So when you view all the judgmental people in the comment sections, then you start to attach that to everyday people when it's really not. Okay, so social media is it's just fucking awful. Do you think that I use social media? Like, I post on YouTube, I'm like a creator, but I don't use Instagram, I don't use TikTok. The only time that I use YouTube is when I specifically search out a YouTube video and I take notes on it. All right, this isn't something that I just plug my mind into on a regular basis. It's insane. All right, so now that we got over that, let's go over the physical action steps to get over social anxiety, okay? Here's the practical like movements that you can take. Now, I still think the mental stuff is very important, don't get me wrong. And the first step is to go into public and look at people in the eyes for a second longer than is probably normal as you're walking by. So that's like the first really lowest level of connecting with people, right? Is looking at people in the eyes. And how often do you walk past a large number of people and you're just completely ignoring them? Like you're acting like they don't exist. So the first thing is to just look at people in the eyes, and specifically women, now also men too, but specifically look at women in the eyes as you're walking past them. These are people you're probably not gonna see ever again. It doesn't matter if you seem weird for doing it a second longer than usual. Just get accustomed to doing that and connecting with people on that lowest level, all right? Because the eyes are the window to the soul. And step number 2 is to have a smile and ask, how are you doing today, to the cashier? And have a smile because, all right, in the past, I used to be completely oblivious to my facial expressions. And I would say like, how are you to somebody? And I would get a negative response over and over. And I realized that it was because I had such an angry look on my face. I would be like, how are you today? And I would be staring them with a death stare. So have a smile And then that energy is gonna carry on to them, okay? So that's step number 2 is just, you know, ask how you doing today to somebody as you're walking by. Step number 3 is to go to a place where there are women working, such as the mall, and then ask for help or just talk to them. And especially if she's like a salesman or she gets paid on like commission. So she's literally getting paid to talk to you. So take advantage of that. Like, take advantage of all of the people, all of these women that are attractive that have to talk to you. It's not weird, it's not sad, it's just a tool. It's something that you can use to as a stepping stone. And you can honestly hit on these women in the past and go on dates with these women that are working. So it's really just practice. So, go to the mall. I don't know if you have Journeys where you live, but the shoe store Journeys, like the women there, they get paid on commission. So they're going to want to talk to you and you can have like a 5-10 minute conversation with these women. It doesn't have to be flirtatious at first, but just get in the habit of talking to women. All right, ask for some help finding an item. It's easy. All right, now talk to men and women both. What you should really do is go to a gym and then start conversations with dudes. Okay, I find it so sad that when you go to the gym, everybody's sort of just like a bot, Everybody's sort of like an NPC on their own device. In between sets, it's just like, okay, pull out my phone. Let me scroll for another 5 scrolls. All right, now I hit 5 curls. All right, now let me pull out my phone again. It's so depressing to see the world like that, honestly. So what I do at the gym is I just started talking to people. I started asking, hey, can I get a spot? Or hey, can I get some advice on this or that? Like, let's say there's an older dude, maybe in like his 40s or 50s, who looks like extremely jacked. Ask him for some advice on something. And then go to the gym at the same time regularly. So go to the gym in the morning on Monday or Wednesday and Friday, or go to the gym in the evening on those days. Because what's gonna happen is you're gonna see the same people over and over again, and that's how relationships are formed. When you see people over and over again, and you talk to them and you have a good attitude. Oh yeah, that's one thing I forgot to mention. If you are a guy with a positive attitude and you care about people, like you ask them questions, they're gonna care about you because nobody's doing that. All right, of course, there's the people that know them since high school, but beyond that, nobody's checking on them on a regular basis. So that's how you're gonna make some friends and start to form some connection, is you need to go somewhere regularly where you can hang out with people, okay? And number 5, now you wanna start to approach women out in public and then just go up to women and ask them for directions. This is like the lowest level of actually doing a real approach is you say, "Hey, excuse me. Hey, do you know where I can get to the McDonald's from here?" Or, "Hey, do you know where I can get to the library from here?" Or here's another one like, "Hey, just curious. I know this is a really random question, but I was wondering if you know any good restaurants around here. Or I was wondering if you know any good hiking trails around here." So this is something you can really start to do to start connecting with your community, is asking people for recommendations, asking women for directions, and they're gonna be happy to help you. And that's gonna get you into the habit of not feeling afraid to approach women. And the word approach is such a scary word. The word approach, it sort of entails that you need something from someone. Okay, just don't think about it as an approach. Think about it as connecting with people. Okay, because you don't need anything from these women at the end of the day, man. It's only a bonus. Okay? And number 6 is to approach women in public and then give a compliment, and then you can walk away if you want. Now, this gets over just starting to really do a real approach. Is you go up to a girl and you're like, "Hey, excuse me, that's an awesome shirt." And then you just walk away. You don't need anything from the girl. You don't need her to give you an amazing reaction. You don't need her to validate you. You're just being a nice guy. Okay, you're connecting with people. and then you can walk away. Or maybe, you're gonna start to do this, honestly, and there's gonna be some women who are immediately flattered, and you're gonna immediately see in their eyes that they're attracted to you, and then you might wanna stay in that conversation, even at this level that you're at. So that's a possibility as well, okay? Now, step number 7 is do an approach where you talk to a girl for at least 30 seconds, and then don't worry about getting her number yet. Don't worry about closing. Okay, so just try to keep the conversation going for at least 30 seconds. You're like, hey, excuse me, I just wanted to come say hi. You seemed interesting. All right, that's what you can say. It doesn't really matter what you open with, guys. Don't overthink this, please. Don't get stuck on the little details. And then what you can do when you start this conversation is you can start to do some maybe observations about the girl. You're like, you know what? You seem like you're from around here. Where are you from? Or something very simple. I don't even care if you go into interview mode at this point. Just try to keep talking. Another thing you can do is try to give some personal input. You're like, oh, you don't seem like you're from here. Where are you from? She's like, no, I'm from Colorado. And you're like, no way. I was thinking about going to Colorado next year, actually, going snowboarding. How is Colorado? Do you snowboard? All right, so provide personal input, make observations about the girl. That's just a couple easy things you can do. All right, number 8, now that we're doing all this stuff, it's time to do your first real approach, man. A lot of guys try to really prolong this and think they need to do this for months and months. Like, we need to make this a reality of you going on some dates, man. So let's do a real approach. So at this point, go up to a girl, talk to her for a couple minutes, and just ask for her number. Be like, hey, you seem kind of cool. Why don't we exchange numbers? Just like that. You don't need to care if she gives you her number or not. It doesn't matter, man. Because once you get rejected, all right, so here's what's gonna happen when you first go out and start doing this. You're gonna feel kind of scared, maybe. You might even not wanna do it. And it happens to everybody. Because what's gonna happen is you're gonna have this fear of rejection. You're gonna think that it's this big, scary, embarrassing moment that's gonna crush your ego. You think that it's gonna attach to your identity, but here's what's actually gonna happen. Once you do your first couple of approaches, and let's say that, a girl rejects you, what you realize is it's literally not nearly as bad as you thought. And you feel like the man for just taking action. Okay, you get a massive boost in self-esteem once you take that step. Literally independent of the fact that she did not give you her number. I promise you, this is the case every single time, okay? Because you feel like you have just, overcome an obstacle that has held you back for so many years. If that's the case, you felt like you've overcome an obstacle that so many men aren't, and you almost, it's probably not a good thing, but you almost get a little sense of superiority over other guys because other guys don't have the ability to do so. So you feel like you have this sort of superpower once you start being able to really do this well also, which is probably not a good thing. But hey, it can be a good motivating factor. Okay, so just go up to the girl, have a nice conversation, and just ask for her number, man. Be like, hey, do you drink coffee? She's like, yeah, I drink coffee, because every girl drinks coffee. Then you're like, all right, well, you know what? Let's get some coffee sometime. Let's exchange numbers. And then boom. Now you're really in the dating game. You're really talking to women. You're taking the necessary actions to succeed. And it's only a matter of, a few approaches really before you get your first number. And then before you get your first good number with a girl who's actually interested on you. All right, it didn't take me very long to do this. Now I know it's different on every single person's level. Some person it might take whatever, 20, some person might be their first time. But literally, when I first started doing this, it took me a week. It took me a week from the first girl that I approached to the first girl that I approached and then went on a date with. And from that point, it it was on. Okay, it changed my whole worldview. I no longer wanted to rely on dating apps. I wanted to become really good at the skill of just talking to people, of being in the moment. All right? So now, if you're a guy that wants to get the first girlfriend that you've had in a long time or really ever, or you want to start going on more consistent dates with women, or you want to start dating women that are higher quality, or you want to be able to talk to women with confidence, okay? And you want to potentially work with me so that I can personally help you get there fast, you can click the link below. It's not for everybody, but if this is a change that you want to make as fast as possible, and if this is something that that's already been holding you back for a while, I can help you get there fast. So you can go ahead and click the link below this video. But that's all I have for today, guys. I hope this really helped you in some ways, and I'll see you soon.